Just as President Trump was expected to sign an executive order marking the beginning of the end for federal education, the White House reverses course due to rumored concerns the administration doesn't have a good plan yet. That's coming up next on Educated.
Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Hello and greetings, everyone. I am Katie Petrick, joined by David Fiorazo.
Happy Monday.
Despite being the man in black, I guess. Yes. It's a happy Monday because he had a great guest today on Worldview Matters.
Powerful podcast with Agenda Weekly's Curtis Bowers. We talked about, well, we actually answered the question, is freedom coming back to America, or have we been on a decline or decay too many decades? Well, Curtis thinks we're winning the war. So it's Curtis Bowers on today's worldviewmatters.tv, and thanks for sharing the podcast.
Excellente. All right. Well, this here is Educated.
Yes, sir.
And we are streaming on Rumble, on Facebook, on Apple, and on Spotify. So do the thing where you hit us up on the chat, as the kids would say. Now, David, we have, I think, our mutual favorite, and by favorite, I mean least favorite, educational person involved in this upcoming story. So let's talk about it.
Okay, so this is an ABC headline, and it's kind of deceptive, and I'm going to point out why. And we've got a lot of videos and news stories to get to. So there it is, ABC News. Trump won't sign executive order to dissolve Department of Education. Today. Today.
Today.
What does that mean, according to sources? So today, so the day it came out, that day, Trump wasn't going to sign that executive order, but it almost shows that Trump changed his mind about signing it, period. But that's not true, is it?
No.
But isn't that interesting how ABC...
Oh, it's interesting how they all spin a little this way, spin a little that way.
He won't sign the executive
whichever way
order.
they want things to go.
Yeah, he doesn't want to dissolve the Department of Education today. So watch this clip. We'll come back and talk about it.
Behind the scenes, multiple sources are telling ABC that the White House decided to pull this signing specifically because there was concern amongst top administrative officials about the blowback that the order would receive, especially with what's been deemed a lack of messaging in place ahead of its timing. And one of the things that was of specific concern is answering questions about how this executive order would impact the school lunch program. And when you think about the Department of Education, one of its chief functions, I mean, billions of dollars go towards servicing students that are low income, and then also students with disabilities. And so, there was a pivotal question here about how that would either be absorbed by other agencies or how state and local school districts would be able to fill in the gaps there.
There's so much involved here, but just your take on what he was just talking about.
I just kept thinking, Panic at the Disco, Panic at the Disco.
What does that mean?
Today, he's not doing it today, but and then
but if they do it, and then they have to do this, and
what would happen this, and then
and then what?
It's like they are just trying to stir the pot where a pot doesn't need to be stirred.
Of course,
it's all they do because they're grasping at straws at this point to try and get something to just see. This is why Trump's so evil.
And why are they trying to stir the pot? Because education is their cash cow. Sacred cow, maybe? Sacred cow, perhaps?
Sacred cow? Sacred
cash cow. It's either Planned Parenthood or education. They, tax dollars for education.
But they go hand in hand.
The Department of Education. Yeah. So, Katie, let's go to the end of this article. In order to dismantle, they've used the word dismantle, the Department of Education would require congressional approval. So any proposed legislation would likely fail without 60 Senate votes. Do you think that it's possible to get 60 Senate votes?
I don't think it is possible unless, I guess, the Trump administration actually does have a clear plan laid out for those 60 senators to be, I guess, a little bit more comfortable getting on board to sign it. Because the thing is, ever since the Department of Ed was put into place, they've been trying to get rid of it.
Well, I'm not sure if they've been trying to.
Well, it's been proposed.
Some have been talking about it. Some have proposed. But they have not been trying to get rid of it.
No, okay.
No.
I don't think it's going to ultimately be gotten rid of. However, I do believe there will be a lot of the things that they currently are overseeing will be stripped back and put back to states and local, hopefully, municipalities. So
there are ways.
But there are still people up in arms about this, including...
Oh, really? Like who?
Yours and my favorite? Question mark?
Favorito?
Union president?
RW?
Her name is Randi Weingarten. And she, once upon a time, was a teacher, a history teacher, who doesn't know much history. But this is what she does know how to cash a check. Like a $560,000 per year check. She can cash that. She knows the history of her bank account and how much money she makes.
Where does that money come from?
Oh, just you, me, and everyone in between.
Tax dollars?
And she had a little bit of a tizzy. A little bit of a tantrum, if you will.
Do we have video on that?
Oh, I hope we do.
The federal government does not control education. The states do. Local school boards do. This is about opportunity. That is why so many people are so mad about it, because they're just taking opportunity away from kids that don't have it. So kids of billionaires, they have it. They go to private schools. Everyone else, 90%, go to public schools. Don't take away their opportunity.
So let's stay on the facts.
Sorry.
No,
I'm
do
really
not apologize.
angry about this.
No, because this
I'm
is what
really
people
angry.
need to hear.
I taught kids in Clara Barton High School in Brooklyn, New York. Virtually all of them got Title I funds. I taught AP Gov.
You are not going to take away my over $500,000
per year.
Per year. Okay, so we've talked about many times on this program that the solution is always more money to education. They need more money. So you can't even discuss failing test scores or declining education, because they'll say, well, if we had more money, it would be. But they've been saying this for decades, and it's kind of like, I don't know, I hate the expression, but beating a dead horse. I hate that expression, but it's the only thing I can think of right now. They've used it over and over and over. And then COVID came, and then they said, okay, now we really need more money, and they got it. And then we did reports, and we've heard from great journalists and conservative outlets what they did with that money, right?
Yep.
And how they wasted it and went to other things other than students learning. Go ahead, Katie.
So this all depends for Randy and for Becky Pringle of the other teachers union.
The other demonic leader.
It all depends on what they're trying to do, narrative-wise.
What are they trying to do?
So you don't want, right now the thing is, we don't want the Department of Education gotten rid of, because what about the Title I funding? What about, kids getting their free lunches? That's what they're going to focus on. But if their back is up against the wall, they're like, whoa, hey, it's not us. We don't do a lot at the Department of Ed. It's actually the states who have all the control in this.
Kids.
So it's, which narrative are you trying to push? Today, they're trying to push out how important the Department of Ed is because they don't want to lose their jobs. But if it's their backs up against the wall, then they're like, oh, no, it's actually the states who are in control of everything. And it's the local municipalities. Don't look at us at the Department of Ed. It's not us. Oh, this is what they do. And they get paid handsomely for it. Meanwhile, teachers, you're not getting paid. And students, you're not getting educated. So who's winning in this entire spiel? No one is the answer except Randy Weingarten, I guess. But hey, she likes to cry about it.
There are ways. I mean, you got to look up, if you're following friends out there listening and watching, if you're following people like Alex Newman, people like Chris Rufo, people like Rand Paul, there's so many others that have put forth proposals on how to go about doing this, how to restructure. It's dismantle is I think that's a loaded word. Right? Dismantle. They can't dismantle it. But as you said, there are things that can be done. But again, you need the votes.
Well, speaking on the lines of dismantling, Miley Cyrus may have sang the song, but Linda McMahon came in like a wrecking ball. She was confirmed as education secretary on a 51-45 party line vote, in case you didn't know. And now she's got a lot of work ahead of her. Look at her. Boom. Honorable McMahon, it says. Honorable Linda McMahon, Secretary of Education. And so she said she is prepared to lead the department in this transformational time and embrace the challenge to improve the education system for the more than 100 million children and college students who deserve better. Now, of all those 100 million children and college students, the question is, why is it that she's coming in here, and why does she believe that these millions actually do indeed deserve better? Why do Americans want the Department of Education eliminated?
The Federal Department of Education has existed in some form since 1867, initially created to gather information to help states develop effective school systems. The modern department was established as a cabinet-level agency in 1979 after Jimmy Carter ran on separating the agency from what is now the Department of Health and Human Services. Some Republicans have been calling for the department to be closed since it was first established. The calls don't seem to be slowing down. In 2024, 64% of Republicans and Republican-leaning Americans have a negative view of the Department of Education.
I'm going to close the Department of Education and move education back to the states.
The Department of Education is offensive to anybody who's kind of a small government conservative because it creates a permanent infrastructure in Washington that's always trying to weigh in on what states and communities and colleges should be doing for their part.
The U.S. Department of Education has become a symbol of public education and public schools across the country. And what we've seen in polling ever since the COVID shutdowns is Americans, and particularly Republicans, have lost a lot of trust in U.S. public schools. And there's now a big division in how Democrats feel about public schools versus how Republicans feel about public schools. And I think the department has become a symbol of that.
Yeah.
There's so much in there to address, but Americans, particularly Republicans, have lost a lot of trust in the
it's
government schools.
Why?
Because Democrats control the system. Democrats control education. The teachers' unions and the Democrats there have donated to every presidential candidate, every Democrat presidential candidate since Jimmy Carter. Everyone.
What a quinkadink. Isn't Jimmy Carter when the Department of Education was
Oh, my
put
goodness.
In?
This is, again, this is their cash cow. The Democrats support it no matter what education does because it's the money that comes back to the Democrats. And then it gets to the education. I mean, it's just like a vicious circle, right? So
this
no wonder they support
that
it.
Never ends.
Yep.
Yes,
And yet 64% of Americans don't have any trust in the education system anymore. I think it should be a lot higher than that. If you look at the results, if we were results oriented, like our kids learning to critically think, can they read, can they write? How about English? How about history?
Whoa, David! Come on now.
Too many
Come on,
expectations.
too many things. I mean,
for education?
let's just take a look. What does the department actually do?
What do they do?
One of the department's biggest responsibilities is dispersing federal student loans and managing loan forgiveness programs.
The U.S. Department of Education, in a lot of ways, it operates like a bank. If you're looking at a full portfolio of loans and all the money that flows through the department, it is quite large. If you're looking in terms of what is the size of the department staff, it's about 4,400 employees. It's small relative to other agencies in the federal government. So it has kind of a small staffing footprint. More than
$114 billion of the $229 billion that passes through the department goes toward the federal direct student loan program, according to usaspending.gov. The department is also responsible for issuing Pell Grants, which are usually granted to undergraduate students on a needs basis and typically do not have to be repaid. It also manages Title I funds, a federal aid program for K-12 schools serving low-income students. In the fiscal year 2024, Congress allocated $18.4 billion to the program.
It is a program that provides funds particularly to students who live in concentrated poverty. And part of the reason for that is that if we were to have education systems that relied purely on local and state funding, you would see these kind of vast inequalities in how much funding is available to schools. And so the federal government plays this role of kind of offsetting that.
Yes, Big Brother plays the role of offsetting that. So you saw the spin there in the beginning. It's a small footprint, this 4,400 employees, and how many billions, hundreds of billions of dollars that they're actually spending. It's just a small footprint. So spin is what they do. I just wanted to read out a comment that I think a lot of our listeners and watchers viewers have actually expressed. This is from Angela. She says, I started school in 1971. I never had a free meal once in 12 years. Why does everybody believe it's our taxpayers' job to feed every kid in schools?
Thank you.
We weren't rich. We were straight up middle class. Why the billions wasted on food for all these kids? Tell their parents to cut out what they need to feed their kids. I'm not saying there isn't a lot of poverty in this country. There is. Yeah. But we've gone to the point where everybody gets a free lunch. That's because everybody, I mean, if you give to one, everybody has to have that free lunch. And it's not just lunch. It's also breakfast. Oh, and snack time. So they keep, it just keeps growing and growing and growing.
So there is a debate on how can you help the young, most impoverished families. But that doesn't mean we have to pay for everybody or we have to help everybody. But this is what they've done, and this is what kind of the accepted norm. It's just, it is really crazy.
Yeah, it is.
Is that education? Well, who's responsible for that anyway?
Well, you ponder that during the break because we have a whole lot more on Educated.
Catch Freedom Project's lineup of shows daily at noon Central. Starting on Monday, we have Educated. On Tuesday, we have the Dr. Duke Show with Vicki McKenna. Wednesday continues with another episode of the Dr. Duke Show with Dr. Jake Jacobs. Thursday, we have One Nation. And Friday, we wrap up the week with another episode of Educated. Catch Freedom Project's lineup of shows daily at noon Central.
All right, well, let's take it back to shop class.
What?
Now, I was never actually in shop class. Were you ever in a shop
Yes,
class?
actually in junior high school.
Look at you go.
Way back in what decade?
Well, hey, we're going to take it back there, even though it is 2025, because that's what we are seeing in a fight against the impeding and impending AI takeover. I'm here for it to have shop class come back for a lot of students who could benefit from having it. Now, the Wall Street Journal ran a piece about schools reviving shop class offer a hedge against the AI future. School districts around the U.S. are spending tens of millions of dollars to expand and revamp high school shop class for the 21st century.
Wow.
Let's take a look.
What do you make of the shop classes coming back to these high schools? For instance, Middleton High School in Madison, Wisconsin, they just spent $90 million a few years ago to include tech facilities, and a fourth of those students have taken one of those classes.
Yeah, I celebrate this revival in career and technical education, especially because this is not your grandfather's shop class, right? They're not building birdhouses. In that particular high school, they're in a fishbowl environment where other students can see they are using robotics, they're using AI to implement the trades now in a very new and engaging way for students. College for All has failed us. The pendulum is swinging the other way. Students are much more interested in the trades because they are giving high-paying jobs due to the critical shortage of workers in those fields. It's increasing salaries, and they can use their skills right away when they get out of high school and start off on a career without the college debt that none of them are looking for right now.
Yeah, so 30% of parents say that kids under the age of 9, Erica, have used AI for learning. I have a 9-year-old. I find this, I was shocked by this statistic. So what does this mean for America's future in the trade industries? Will we have a shortage?
Well, currently, we need about 439,000 workers just in construction alone in 2025. So we do have an issue here in the United States achieving those workers. However, I do see AI and robotics and other technologies increasing efficiencies so that we reduce the number of workers that we actually need. But I think it's great that students are learning at an early age how to use technology appropriately. We want wise use of technology in our classrooms so that students are prepared to take on the jobs of tomorrow. By 2031, only about half, less than half, in fact, of jobs are going to require a college degree. How are we going to prepare these students to take on the responsibilities of our economy and growing economy, thanks to President Trump, if we're not teaching about these technologies?
Yes.
She makes some great points, but $90 million? At one school?
Well, that's part of it. That was a whole campus overhaul. Don't get tied. Yeah, that's a whole thing. Don't get tied up in that. What I want everyone to get tied up is it's like in economics. If you're in the stock market, right? You buy low, sell high. Right now, we have a low amount of people who are actually going into the trades. Now's the time to get in because
that's true.
Let's be real, everyone. We are getting lazier and lazier. You are even less.
Who's we?
We as society. You are even less likely to do any physical labor around your house. You're going to hire someone to do any kind of construction, anything HVAC.
Fact check, true.
And we need our air conditioning, and we need our heat, and we need all these things.
I just got
we need new windows. We
heater.
need, and yet we don't know how to do any of these. We don't have the skills to do any of these things.
My dad would have been able to do everything.
Exactly. And
But
that's
I
why
can't.
Grandpa's shop class is coming back, but not building birdhouses. They're building actual houses. They are really learning how to build our society out.
I agree with that, and the need for this, because decades ago even, there were studies on kids going to college and what percentage of kids that graduated from college weren't even using their degree in what they ended up working in, what line of work. So, I mean, now I'd be curious to see current studies on that. But yeah, this need is going to be changing. There are going to be more needs for these types of jobs and employees and businesses. So yeah, I can see that. It's just the money when it comes to the schools, they're going to say, oh, we need more money from the taxpayers. That's the problem I have with it.
True. Well, they're going to be a bunch of busy bees, kind of like the Babylon bee, of which the headlines we have up next. You see how I tied that together. All right, well, we're going to pick a winner after the break, so stick around.
In 2024, we find ourselves at a pivotal moment where the call for unity, freedom, and a better future echoes louder than ever. Introducing Patriot Mobile, the wireless carrier that stands with you. We are committed to supporting the values that make our nation great. With affordable plans and reliable nationwide coverage, Patriot Mobile is not just a wireless service. It's a call to action for those who believe in the American dream.
Get free activation now with promo code EDUCATED.
All right, before we wrap things up, let's take a look at everyone's favorite satire site, the Babylon Bee.
Here are this week's top 5 Babylon Bee headlines.
Okay, again, Katie and I have not seen what have been selected for the top 5, so our responses will be authentic. Let's go to, and you can vote, by the way, whether you're streaming on Rumble or Facebook, please vote. Let us know which one of these you want to crown Queen of the Hive. Let's start with number 1. Mike Johnson helpfully hits rim shots for all Trump's punchlines. Number 2, Sergeant at Arms gently escorts Lib to the cry room. Number 3, Hitler defeated after opposition party holds up tiny signs on paddles. Number 4, reminder. It is offensive and possibly illegal to Photoshop anything on these Democrats' signs that would make them look foolish. And number 5, Democrats file articles of impeachment against little black boy with cancer. So, Katie, I look at that last one, I'm going, geez, I know that's an exaggeration, but the fact that none of them stood up and cheered for that, they're just heartless. Stone cold, but I know what I've got mine narrowed down. What's your favorite?
I mean, number 2 basically is true. Here's the cry room for you. Here we might. Oh, you can't sit in the chambers.
You can have a tantrum. We'll remove
take you to your own little
and you can have
private
your tantrum.
space.
Yes.
Little private space. You can get better. It's just a show. It's kind of like Mike Johnson probably did it. It's
a clown show.
It is a clown show.
It's a clown
Hitting
show.
the rim shots. I mean, I feel like that's kind of funny though.
That is funny. That is funny. That's the funniest
you're
one.
a former drummer, so you get it. You got it.
Rim shot. All right. I like the Hitler one. That's a very interesting strategy, holding up tiny signs on paddles. I think that completely failed and made them look even more idiotic. But that's why I like number 3. So you can vote and let us know which one you think is numero uno.
Well, I got a second vote for me. Jimbo says number 2 because the room probably does exist.
The cry room?
It does exist. I mean, they have their, like, the Dems have their own room and the Republicans have their own room, like, outside the chambers. Those rooms exist. So let's just
It would be more
believe it is, in fact, a cry room.
I would think it's a tantrum room, not a cry room, because they just throw fits and tantrums.
But you show your emotions, David.
All right.
I show my emotions here.
All right.
That's what
Are we applauding? What are we applauding right now?
Hey, it's all about the feelings.
Okay. Anyway, that's going to wrap up our top headlines of the week. More satire next time.
All right, and just a little reminder that we will be back again on Friday at noon Central for another episode of Educated. Now, for David and myself, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting what we do. Until next time, stay educated.